Hi folks, I'm Nathan with Two Guys in a Ride, and today we're here at Apple Ford Shakopee, and we are here with Mike. Now, you might remember Mike from when we were up at Brainerd International Raceway, and we got to talk to Mike. He was at the grid area, there we call it, where the cars were coming in. And he is also the owner of a beautiful 5-liter Mustang GT, and it is an 86.
1986.
And now we also, I don't know if this video is coming out first or second, but we have another Mustang that's an 86. That's the convertible version.
His was an 85.
His is an 85.
Yeah. Not a lot of difference, though.
No, they're exactly the same cars, except for his was the convertible. And you're even the same color. I don't know how you guys, we call that the canyon red? Is that what the?
Medium canyon red.
Medium canyon, wow. So let's talk about some of these. Now, you know, the Ford always badged these cars up front with the sort of the motor size, and then would put the GT emblem somewhere else. When in this case, you have it on the side in the trim, and then later years they moved that GT up to here. It's at least on some of the models, and then the rims are not standard to this particular car, but they are Mustang. So what are they?
They're off a 2005 to a 2010 Mustang, what they call the bullet cars.
Yep.
And so these are 17 by 8 in as far as the size goes of the rims, obviously 17-inch tires. But what you saw on Doug's 85 was what I had on here originally the 15 by 7s, when they call them the 10-hole wheels.
Right.
So.
And you could almost identify a Mustang by those. You just saw that tire; it was so common. That rim. Now, the black strip on the hood, was that paint or was that a decal?
It's a decal.
It's a decal.
It's a decal,
okay.
and that was part of the GT package, if you will.
Okay, and then because there was no other pinstriping on those when they did that. Okay, now you have some what looks like little louvers back here, and those are just decoration.
Correct.
But they're a little bit of a throwback to what year would have been to use that? 65 and up.
Yeah.
When you saw this on the fastbacks,
yes.
You know, and in those cars actually there was a little lever and you would pull it and it would let air go in,
correct,
and back out again. So that's kind of where that is a little piece of Mustang history. Coming on back to the back here, you have a spoiler.
correct,
and it's huge. It's like the world's biggest spoiler. We were talking about this earlier, but you know, I mean, because here's where the trunk ends, you know, and then you go all the way up. It looks really nice. I really like that, but it is big. I've owned a couple Mustangs, but I've never had, you know, mine have always been much smaller. Or I love the taillights.
Yeah.
The are those new? Have you replaced those?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I did a couple years ago, because we had the National Mustang show up here last summer. The driver's side one had a crack in it, in the top. What didn't affect the lens at all.
Right.
And I knew what they were going to be looking for, so I bought new lenses for it to make it look a little bit, it was a little more presentable, and they wouldn't dock me points.
Okay. And then, of course, you did have the third mount brake light right in here.
And that's the difference between Doug's and mine. In '86, they came out with the high mount light. '85
and 85
was the last year without it.
But that's one of the differences. You had the third mount brake light in 1 year later.
That's the only way you can really tell them apart from the outside, because everywhere else they look identical, with the exception of the high mount.
The high mount light. Okay. Coming back over here, of course, we got the same type of badge and everything. But on the inside, you know, you have the same kind of seats. So these, you know, like I said, I've owned a couple Mustangs, and these seats are really nice. I mean, they're much thicker than mine were.
Okay.
Mine were they're just a standard, and it was, you know, wasn't the luxury. It was like an LX, so not the top of the trim, but those seats are like really comfortable seats.
They are. They're great seats especially for long trips. Especially when you have the thigh extenders here on them.
I like those.
They're called the seats themselves are kind of modeled after a Recaro, and they just refer to it as the sports seat package.
Okay.
And they're very, very comfortable. I had these recovered about 3 years ago.
Okay.
I'd worn through some of the original fabric on the driver's side, and they had faded quite badly on the sides of the seats.
Which is really typical for Mustangs, at least. mine have done the same thing. Now, in your rear seat, was that you did not have like the 2+2 configuration that earlier Mustangs did, where you could fold those back seats down and put a cover over it and.
Oh, I've folded. The back seats do fold forward.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, and I've when I work up at Brainerd, or used to work up at Brainerd until we got old and discovered hotels. We used to camp up there and bring our camping gear, and I'd put the tent, my sleeping stuff, all my change of clothes, and a couple coolers in the back of it, and still had plenty of room.
Of course, those coolers had lemonade, right?
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. So that's interesting that you could actually, in this year, could still fold those. Well, now that I look back there, yeah, it's a whole different configuration from what they do now. Where now your only choice is to remove the entire seat, and you still can't get to the back.
Exactly.
It's just for cleaning or whatever. Okay. Any other modifications you did? It's a 5-speed transmission?
Yes, 5-speed.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've done a lot of work on the car over the years.
What all have you done? Because you didn't buy it new.
I bought it in February of '88 from Apple Valley Ford in Apple Valley.
Okay.
And the car had been sitting there for quite a while, and I just needed a different car, and I fell in love with this.
Okay.
And so the car has got it's a 5-liter motor. It's a 302, but it's been bored out a little bit slightly. I had it rebuilt about 10 or 12 years ago.
Okay.
And it's now considered to be a 306.
Okay.
I changed the intake on it, put aluminum heads on it, did a lot of valve train work on it. Okay. Put headers on it, changed the exhaust system on it completely, where it's got an X pipe in it, competition X pipe. The engine itself puts out about 400 horsepower now.
Wow.
And originally it started out from the factory, it was at 200.
Yeah,
so I basically
that's
doubled
a lot.
doubled that. The transmission, the original transmission, and by the way, the block is original to the car, but most of the other engines are not.
Okay.
But the transmission, I put a new transmission in it here about 4 or 5 years ago. The old one just wore out.
Okay.
And put a new T5 transmission in it. Also put a new rear end in it at the time. It's a little different gear ratio in the back. The car itself has now got 4-wheel disc brakes in it, where originally it was a drum or a disc and drum configuration. Okay. It's got subframe connectors on it to stiffen the suspension up, or stiffen the body up, I should say, a little bit more. Trying to figure out what else I've done to it.
That's quite a list.
Yeah, I've got a 3-ring binder sitting at home with a lot of all the paperwork.
You keep track of it.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice because if anyone out there works on their own cars or has them worked on, either way, if you don't start keeping track, it isn't long before you've forgotten what you did, because there's so many things over the years that you do that you're like, and then this way you have an accurate record of it.
Yeah, and then like I told a buddy of mine, if something happens to me, I told him where it is so he can pitch the binder, get rid of it. So my wife doesn't see how much money I've actually spent into the car. So, but like I said, I've owned the car since 1988, and the car itself, I don't know how much of it is still, but the car itself has 170,000 miles on it.
Okay.
So.
And do you drive this often? Is this a park most of the time?
During the summer, I probably put between 2,000 and 3,000 miles a year.
Wow.
This year's a little different because of the COVID deal.
Right.
But typically I put between 2,000 and 3,000. I'll drive it up to Brainerd or over to Road America for a race or something. And I've also done a lot of track days with the car, driver schools and so on with the car. So, which is the reason I built it the way, with the 4-wheel disc brakes and all the suspension add-ons and everything like that. So
do you have a favorite memory about the car?
Probably the first time I took it on the track, because I didn't know what to expect.
That's a fun experience, isn't it?
It really is. It is a lot of fun, and I've worked, like you say, I've worked up at Brainerd for a number of years. But the first time I took it out, it's like, okay, what do I expect out of it? How's it going to handle? How fast is it going to go? But it's been a great car, a lot of fun, a lot of road trips, between here, Brainerd, Road America. It's actually been to Kenora, Ontario on a couple of different occasions.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful car and your story and your time with us. We sure appreciate it.
Thanks a lot for having us.